An individual goes on a killing spree, another warning sign of those among us who want nothing more than a bloodbath. And investigators need private information from a cell phone. Why would Apple or any other company throw up a roadblock to possibly stop another mass murder? The seasons are changing, and more than 500 million people are about to start moving again in their attempt to escape the man who would gas them without a second thought. The world faced again with genocide, and looking to America for leadership. The search for a new president should supposedly mean a search for leadership. But a new survey in South Carolina reveals the type of people making decisions in the GOP primary could be more worrisome than who gets the win on Saturday. And what about all the noise we heard about not one single Republican giving the president one single inch when it comes to a new Supreme Court justice? And now we hear the sounds of a backup alarm growing inside the Beltway. I'm Ed Berliner. This is the Hardline for Wednesday, February 17th, 2016.
It is important to note here, Josh, exactly what the Department of Justice is requesting. They are not asking Apple to redesign its product or to create a new backdoor to one of their products. They're simply asking for something that would have an impact on this one device.
The government's claiming that no one should worry because it's only going to be used in this one case. But what Apple is saying is that this is not just a one-dimensional key, but it's basically a master key that, if ending up in the wrong hands, could really violate the security of everyone's iPhone all over the world.
Saeed Farouk and his wife murdered 14 people in San Bernardino, California on December 2nd of last year. And on his Apple company-owned cell phone are likely the contacts and information the FBI needs in order to further the case and help hunt down those who helped the killers and who may be prepared to help more of their ilk gun down more Americans here on home soil. Yet the organization, which supposedly has the best tech experts in the world, cannot unlock the phone. And Apple says it will fight tooth and nail to avoid giving the FBI the help it needs to crack the password to get inside the data. And we have reached yet another pivotal moment in American security and American privacy. A point that could be looked upon down the road as a time when more people died because of a corporate decision. Or is it really that simple? Let's begin. He is president of the Institute for Policy Innovation, a nonprofit think tank working on nonpartisan solutions to public policy. Tom Giovanetti, joined by cybersecurity expert, co-founder, and CEO of SnoopWall, Gary Miliefsky. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for joining us. And I want to begin with you, Tom, because here's a statement that you put out. It is a sad state of affairs when Americans have to rely on private companies to protect our constitutional rights against the government, but apparently that's where we are. That's why I commend Tim Cook of Apple for his strong statement opposing the FBI's overly broad demand for a tool that would allow them to break encryption on any iPhone in the world. Tom, that's not what they're asking for.
And it is what they're asking for, and all you have to do is read the court order. Josh Earnest's comments in your intro were very misleading. What the Justice Department is demanding is that Apple create a master key that could be used to unlock any iPhone in the world. In the analog world, this would be like the FBI having a master key to every American's home that they could use at their convenience. It's an exact parallel in the analog world.
So then, in essence, what we should believe here, and you believe and others believe as well, is that the Justice Department and the FBI are lying? They want something more?
The FBI and the Justice Department have been trying to get the keys to encryption since the early 1990s, when encryption was first invented. The issue back then was called key escrow. As recently as 2 months ago, the FBI was pressuring Apple and Google and other companies to give them breaking tools where they could break into the encryption on mobile phones. So what's happening in this issue is the FBI is using a very sympathetic case to try to cloak this power grab to violate the Fourth Amendment rights of every American who carries a cell phone around in their pocket.
And I want you to hold on to those words for a minute because I'm going to come back to that. Gary, if you would, let me get to you. Here's the thing that is a little bit confusing, I guess, to most people. We are told that the FBI has amazing technical experts. We are told that in many ways America is ahead of the curve when it comes down to tech. Yet here we have a device that will only allow you to put in so many passcodes and then it wipes everything out. And the FBI is saying, we have no idea how to get past this. How does that happen here, Gary? Aren't we supposed to be ahead of the curve on a lot of this tech?
Well, Ed, thanks for having me on the show. And if you think about it, just think about the Jeep that has a back door in it. Jeep had to fix it. there was a backdoor where hackers showed Wired how they could remotely break into the Jeep and cause it to crash. There was a hacker on an airline who was arrested for making the ailerons go up and down to prove that it could be hacked. So when you open things up like a nice, secure iPhone to have backdoors for the government, you're also opening it up for cyber criminals, enemy nation states, and cyber terrorists.
Well, but I understand that, but the bigger question is here, and what you're talking about is if you indeed have the cooperation of Apple, if you get that key. But clandestinely speaking, though, Gary, why aren't we ahead of the curve on this? Because it would seem to me, it scares a lot of people, to be honest, that our FBI has to ask a phone manufacturer in order to find out how to get inside the phone of a killer that we don't already know how, or that we don't have even clandestinely itself, if you will, some way to do it ourselves.
Well, you know, we're usually in America, we're looking for haystacks instead of the needles. If you look at AT&T, T-Mobile, Verizon, whoever was the provider for those domestic terrorists, they'll have all their phone logs. You'll know who they called. And the moment you find a way to get into, say, a smartphone, the cyber criminals will use that method themselves, and also they'll avoid using the phones that are more hackable. They've found out that hackers will even go on game networks like Microsoft's Xbox game network or Sony PlayStation and have chats about terrorism. And it's hard to keep up with them there. You don't know when they're starting their game or what chat room they're in. So if they really want to get away with something, they'll get away with it. We have to go after what I call a root cause analysis. Why are they doing this? Where are they starting from? How do they start out from the beginning? Let's go for a root cause analysis.
Okay, Tom, let me come back to a phrase you used earlier, power grab. I get it. There's a lot of people out there that, quite frankly, are afraid of the government, and in many ways, maybe they should be, not only our government, but so many others. But here's the thing that has people confused and a little bit angry, Tom. This was an individual and his wife who killed 14 people. They gunned them down in broad daylight. This is a law enforcement agency, if you will, that is trying to find these people, make sure that they don't kill somebody else, your family, my family, Gary's family, and maybe this will help them stop this. I realize it's an emotional issue, but is this not stonewalling investigative processes that the 21st century have led us into? We have to be able to do this, or the bad guys get away with it.
No, Ed, I don't think we have to be able to do this. I think electronic privacy is a feature, not a bug. It's not a problem. For us to have a safe society, yes, we have to have robust law enforcement and investigative powers. But for us to have a free society, we have to keep law enforcement within the four walls of the Constitution.
But aren't those walls of the Constitution, don't they also include things like court orders, judges to get involved, not necessarily just walking up to the people and going, hey, by the way, we need 27 names and 36 phones cracked for us here. No, you have to get those court orders. Doesn't that set it apart, though, Tom?
Not an overly broad court order, no. A court order is not constitutional just because it's issued. That court order has to be within the four walls of the Constitution.
Okay, but if it is, and again, I get it. I'm not talking about a blanket here. But in this case, this is an individual. One phone is what they're asking for. And I know what you're going to say, that it will open up to millions of others. But they're asking to get into this one phone. What's wrong with that if you're trying to stop killers?
They're not asking to get into one phone. They're asking for new software to be written, which does not currently exist, as Tim Cook said. And this new tool, once developed, could be used to get into any iPhone, including, frankly, the iPhones of world leaders, presidents of other countries, and things like that. This would be a very dangerous tool to exist. And Ed, we've already decided in this country, in our justice system, that the system is tilted to protect the innocent. We've already decided that we'd rather have guilty go free than innocent be abused by their government. The burden of proof is always on government, not on the individual.
Gary, I saw you nodding your head in a lot of this here, and I want to get back to some of the things Tom said here. About 2 minutes I have left or so. Is that the thing that we need to be discussing here more than anything else? If you're looking for one, we get it. But it's the software issue here. It's the building of this. It's that ability that software gets out there and then becomes free and found by anybody else to be able to get in a phone. So if we take that out of the equation, isn't it still, though, just possible that you can ask them in one instance on a court-ordered issue, do it, don't use the software, but help law enforcement?
Well, Apple actually designed their smartphones so the operating system won't allow for them to hack their own phones. That means they have to redesign the phones and create a backdoor. And just so you know, we've lost billions in revenue, which takes people out of work and makes them hungry, because the NSA backdoors were discovered and leaked out by Snowden in Cisco equipment and Juniper equipment, and other countries don't want to buy made in the USA anymore because they're afraid that there are backdoors in everything we create in our country. I think this is the absolute wrong approach to stopping terrorists.
Okay, I got 30 seconds left. Quick answer from both of you. Gary first. What's the answer then? What's the compromise answer here?
Well, first off, you have to track them, do a root cause analysis. And, you can, again, go into their phone records at the phone company. You don't need to crack open the phone to find out who they contacted.
Which won't take care of data, too. I get that, but that doesn't take care of data that may be inside the phone, correct?
Well, the data has to travel the internet, and routers all around our country are being eavesdropped by the NSA. So if the FBI collaborates with the NSA on this, they probably have all the information they already want without breaking into the phone.
15 seconds to you then, Tom. What's the answer?
The answer is we live in an imperfect world with imperfect government. And because it's imperfect, we tilt the playing field toward the privacy and security of individuals rather than toward law enforcement.
I want to tell you, gentlemen, we've opened up one heck of a can of worms here, and you've both provided a whole lot of things that will leave us talking well after this conversation is over. We need to continue it, and we will. Gary Miliefsky, Tom Giovanetti, gentlemen, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Fleeing a mass killer who will think nothing of exterminating 500,000 lives if it helps him, and the world's still clueless on how to handle more than 500,000 refugees. Next on The Hardline.